us on the news briefing for this Wednesday. We're going to go ahead and get started with Disaster Preparedness Month. The month of September has been designated as Disaster Preparedness Month. And given the number of disasters we have been experiencing over the last year, just this year alone, you'd think we would all be ready for a disaster, but that is not always the case. We're very pleased to have our Director of the Department of Emergency Management, Kelsey Scanlon, with us to help us a little bit with what could be some disaster fatigue and to try to keep people aware of preparedness. Hi, Kelsey.
Hello. So Maya really hit the nail on the head. I know that there is some disaster fatigue in the community, especially after last winter. However, in preparation for this coming winter, we'd like to remind everyone, though winter is on the forefront of everyone's mind, obviously it's important to plan for all hazards within the Monterey County operational area, which are, not limited to wildfires and flooding, but really include everything such as earthquakes, landslides, tsunamis, drought, agricultural emergencies, public health emergencies. So we really encourage people to look at emergency preparedness from a holistic, all hazards perspective. And there's a couple of things that every household can really do to increase the resilience in their home. And when we talk about resilience in this purview, we're really talking about not only how do we withstand emergencies, but how do we reduce the long-term impacts on our households as it pertains to disasters and emergencies. And so what we're hoping everyone can help us do is take that energy that started at the beginning of the pandemic and help us continue with that cultural paradigm shift of not just individual preparedness or just community preparedness, but a collective approach to what we can do as a community and the roles and responsibilities households have in that cultural paradigm shift from me to we. And so the first big thing is to understand your hazards, right? So know your risk. Understand what risks might be near your home or your business, whether you're in a high risk seismic shaking area, if you're in a floodplain, if you're in a high risk wildfire area, if you live close to the coast, and any type of coastal erosion or tsunami threats that you may experience. And you can do this by looking at the Monterey County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan. And this applies for the incorporated jurisdictions as well who participate in this planning effort. And you can also look at the Cal OES My Hazards webpage, and I'll drop the link in the chat at the end here. But you can type in your address and it'll pull up a summary overview of the risks that are affiliated with that particular address. The second thing that we encourage people to do is register for emergency alerts. Right now, the alert system that we're using is called Everbridge, and it's branded as what's called the Alert Monterey County system. And so that system is currently in review, but until such time that we fully transition to a new system, we encourage people to continue to register in that system, and you can receive text messages, phone calls, emails. This also includes the Nixle system, which is just text-based, and it's more like local news than evacuate now kind of information. The third item is to obviously have a plan. Where are you going to go? How are you going to meet up with your family? How are you going to communicate, whether you're at home and need to evacuate the dwelling, or if everyone's at work or school and you have to reconnect at some point? How are you going to stay in contact if you are separated? Where are you going to meet up? The fourth item is to have a kit. The most traditional one that's thought of are the kits within your dwellings that can be accessed if you have to shelter in place. I think the items that people forget about are, what do you need if you're not at your home, if you're at school, if you're at work, if you're at the gym? The easiest that I can recommend is to have your go kit ready in your vehicle, as it's just kind of always with you. We live in California, and most people have a vehicle. And so we recommend having, an extra pair of clothing, extra cash, extra, food, water, etc. And you can find all of that information on how to build a kit for your vehicle, home, office at the ready.gov website. And also that includes our little furry friends. You can create little go kits for your pets as well. And if you would like information on how to prepare your pets and your large animals, you can visit the SPCA for Monterey County website. They're actually one of the state's leading agencies in disaster preparedness and large animal rescue for the state of California. And then finally and this is the big one. It sounds so simple and so silly, but it's a game changer for everyone. And that's to get to know your neighbors. It's free. Though I don't know if you like your neighbor, you may pay in other ways. But get to know your neighbor, because they're going to be the first people there before fire and law show up, most likely. And so creating a network around you where you all can rely on each other or share information is one of the greatest indicators of community resilience. So take a moment, go knock on your neighbor's door, or cold call them, give them a text message, say hi to them in the street, just generally get to know them in advance. It can really change the amount of information received and resources shared.
Thank you very much, Kelsey. And for people who have questions for Kelsey, you can just ask them right now, or you can put them in the chat. And I don't see any hands raised yet, but I do have a question for you. What is the most common thing in your opinion, that people forget about in a go kit or being prepared to get out in a moment's notice? What is the thing that people most forget or leave out?
I don't know what people most forget or leave out, but the thing for me I generally forget are glasses and contacts. I know they're so small, but having extra ones scattered throughout your life. I have some in my car now. I have some in my backpack, some in my office. But basically, what you need to survive in the moment. The other thing, though, that I think people really overlook, and it's not a small task, nor is it a small item, but will save you down the road, is cataloging belongings within the dwellings. And this is to help you with your insurance claims and documenting everything that was lost, especially if it's a total loss of the structure. For instance, if it's a wildfire and everything has been incinerated, it's difficult to go back and remember what was in the dwelling. Whereas with like a flood, you can still see the item. Typically, it's just damaged and needs to be replaced. So I recommend taking pictures, maintaining a general inventory, and storing that somewhere that's not in physical copies. So I know it's the least fun of the preparing activities, but it's arguably one of the most important for long-term resilience.
And the other thing people always ask about is, can I take my pets if I evacuate? And I know that we go through this in the EOC with communications each time, but our partners make that possible. And I'm hoping you can speak to that.
Yeah, so absolutely. You should take your pets with you when you're told to evacuate. Even if it's an evacuation warning, please do not leave your pets behind, especially locked up. If you are unable to take your pets with you, please set them loose or let them out in the backyard. Please do not leave them chained. If you have questions on what to do with your pets, like I said, call SPCA or go to their website. If you need guidance for large animal evacuations, they also can play a significant role, but they also provide services in disasters. So sometimes, depending on the type of incident, they're able to provide shelter-in-place services for animals that may have been left behind. And then for accessing care and shelter services, generally SPCA does co-locate with American Red Cross and Department of Social Services shelters. You may not be able to bring that pet into the shelter with you, but they do allow you to board the animals either at SPCA or at the co-located shelter.
Fantastic. That's really great information. Are there any questions for Kelsey? Anyone who just wants to raise their hand, just shout out a question. Looks like you have covered it. And the disaster fatigue, is that real? Just because that is something that, especially if you lived in an area that was hit by floods and you may have been evacuated or got the warnings, and then you got to go back home, and then you got to get another warning. Are you seeing that in the community where people just don't want to think about it anymore?
I think that that's generally a trend across America. The first real instance of documentation of disaster fatigue was with Hurricane Katrina. I believe Hurricane Ida had moved through the area several weeks before and nothing had really occurred. And because of that false start, per se, the community felt that they could, for the most part, shelter in place and ride out the storm. And of course, we all remember what happened in 2005 with Hurricane Katrina. And very similarly, this past winter, we found that with the January winter storms being quite significant, there was evacuation fatigue after the January storms, which definitely played a role in necessary evacuations in the March storms as well. We've received a lot of comments from the community where, nothing happened in January, or at least the community didn't see anything happen in January in some areas. But again, in March, they felt that they could, maybe withstand flooding. And throughout the March winter storms, I believe over 260 water rescues did occur after the levee broke. So there is definitely evacuation fatigue, there is disaster fatigue, and many people are still recovering from the last disaster. So hopefully we'll have a moderate winter where there's precipitation to keep us out of our drought, but not enough to impact residential properties. So that's the sweet spot. But yes, we are generally seeing people are very fatigued and still recovering from the previous disasters.
Any questions for Kelsey before we let her go? Sina, thank you very much for keeping us on our toes, and we know you'll be keeping us prepared.
Thank you.
For this next whatever. Thanks very much, Kelsey. Sure appreciate it. Our next topic is a little bit related to disasters such as fire. The County Workforce Development's Green Cadre program gives people who are ages 18 to 30 job experience, training, and income for working on some community, environmental, and natural resource projects. And right now, Cadre participants are helping reduce fire dangers in our area. We're very pleased to have Michael Artalejo, who is a job placement coordinator with the Workforce Development. And Michael, you brought some friends with you. You've connected up some friends in the program. Thanks very much for joining us today.
No, thank you so much for having us today. We're very excited to give a little information and background on our program and exactly how what the work that we're doing is impactful within Monterey County. Like I said, we work with individuals right now 18 to 30 years old. We have different facets of our program where we're helping individuals who want to continue with school, or individuals that want to do some short-term educational occupational skills training and get certified in those programs. So we do all of that. And we have our Green Cadre program. There's two facets to that. We do have a food insecurity one that helps out and connects the dots between those that are food insecure within Monterey County and resources and services. But right now, our current cohort is our climate control, and our tagline is explore and restore. So these individuals are going through training while they're getting paid $18 an hour to get certified, and we're working right now hand in hand with the state, California State Parks Department, and we have different projects that are going on with regards to that. But our focus is, how do we affect the climate? How do we help control some of those things that we can control with that we affect the climate, and make sure that our individuals realize that we are part of the environment, and we go hand in hand. I kind of want to hand it off to with your approval, hand it off to our participants so they can give you a brief explanation of what they've learned and what the current project is with regards to fire mitigation, and making sure that there's that we're keeping our climate and areas safe for the future. So with that being said, I'm going to ask our participant Homero Peña to speak a little bit about the program, what he's learned so far, and what kind of trainings he's gone through. So Homero, I'm going to pass it off to you. Okay.
Yeah, hi. How's it going, everybody? Yeah, like Michael said, we're a program that trains everybody ages 18 to 30. What I've learned so far being in this program is the training I've received is I received a OSHA training. I've also received a medical CPR training, followed by a HAZWOPER training with a, last but not least, a power tool training to end it. And going by all that, what Michael was saying, yeah, we have learned a lot of stuff. Judging from when I first started, I didn't really know anything of what I learned now. And with the training that I've received so far, like I know that I have learned a lot of stuff regarding with safety and, you know, how to use power tools properly, and, you know, what to do if in case there's an emergency that happens at a work site, or, you know, just like all the basic stuff to do, like with training. And the training was amazing. Like all the people that trained us, the 3 different trainers that we had, you know, including Michael, he was one of them with helping with the training as well. The three trainers, they did teach us a lot. You know, they taught us what we needed to know when you know, like with the OSHA training, like we received all the training, like saying like what to do, and how to be able to tell like what's going on the different work sites in the areas with the OSHA. And then with the CPR training, in case there's an emergency with a fellow coworker or yourself or anything, like you could go ahead and try to help out as much as you can with your CPR training, you know. And for power tool training as well, like it comes in handy, you know, because a lot of people don't really know how to use power tools. And, you know, I didn't really know how to use power tools when I first started. And, you know, now I feel like confident enough to be able to use power tools because of all the training that I've received so far in this program. And yeah, and since like I appreciate Michael for taking on a chance on me to be able to train me and show me and all my fellow coworkers on how to do all this stuff. You know, like I know when we all first started, we really didn't really know much, but now we all really do know a lot of stuff that we need to know to be able to better ourselves for the future after this program is over. You know, it comes in handy a lot.
Thanks very much for sharing your story, Homero. But now, of course, we're all dying to know, what do you want to do after the program is over? What you've got these great skills. Where do you want to take them?
Honestly, I just kind of want to take anything that comes open to me with all these training skills that I do have, like you said. I know that I could go really far with everything that I've learned because of all this training, and I'm just hoping in the end that I do find something to better myself for the future, to just have myself set. As soon as this program is over, I know just because of this program, I'm gonna be able to get somewhere good. You know, just because of all these certifications that I needed. You know, I didn't even know that I needed, but now I have, and it's better for me. You know, because like, you know, for the end, I'm just hoping to be able to find maybe a good OSHA, like a good maybe like if it comes onto like a good power tool, like a good power tool job, you know, something that'll get me by, you know, because like I said, with all this training, I'm confident enough that I could do it now.
Michael, I'll hand it back to you. I just couldn't resist asking.
No, that's perfect. And for what they're doing right now, there are going to be plenty of opportunities with the state parks. The partnership that we've had with the state parks is pretty invaluable. Learning how to cut trees properly, knowing what invasive species of vegetation is, and getting the California areas back to where they were before we were here. So that's a big part of it. And our previous cohort, there's 3 or 4 individuals that did transition from our program into the state parks, working full time. So there's plenty of opportunities. We do stress to these individuals that once they're in our program and we're going through the program, they're now in the business of them. They, you know, with what we've trained and what we're going forward to, our hopes is that they're going to make those connections and we can help open those doors to those conversations and be in a better place career-wise. You know, ultimately we want a sustainable living wage under their belt, so that way, you know, successful in business, successful in career, means successful within the community, and the community thrives and the individuals thrive. So that's the ultimate goal there. Thank you, Homero, so much for that. Now I'm going to pass it off to Jocelyn Salinas. She is another one of our individuals in our current cohort, and she's going to speak just a little bit about what we're actually doing with the state parks and how this kind of all ties into our safety that the subject is today. So Jocelyn, I hand it off to you.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. As of right now, in the Green Cadre program, we have been working on fuel mitigation at Point Lobos. We remove dead trees and trees that have fallen over. In case of a fire happening, this prevents the fire from spreading faster. Besides that, we remove extra pine trees to maintain a healthy forest ecosystem. Besides that, we have worked on removing coyote brush from meadows. Due to prescribed burns happening less frequently, the coyote brush has taken over the grasslands, and we work on removing these brush in order to protect the native grasslands found in Point Lobos. Fuel mitigation is our main focus as of right now, which is really important to us Californians because fires happen very frequently, and it is important to remove all that extra fuel that can add to a fire if it happens. Our main goals of our Green Cadre program is to preserve resources, protect native species, and make sure that fuel mitigation is happening.
Thank you so much, Jocelyn. And yeah, sorry, I'm trying to turn my camera on. The main work that we've been doing the last, I think, 5 or 6 weeks has been at Point Lobos. It's pretty much where the state parks would want the progress to be. So as of this week, we'll end our time at Point Lobos and we'll move a little further south, and we'll be at John Little there in Big Sur. And we'll be doing some work there, you know, depending on what the state parks would like us to offer that. But in addition to everything that we're doing with the state parks, our Fridays for our group are concentrating on community engagement, giving back. Previous cohorts, not just on Fridays, but previous cohorts during the last winter, we spent a lot of time in Pájaro over there filling sandbags and delivering sandbags. We've been tasked by a couple different agencies within Monterey County to distribute PPE items throughout Monterey County for community partners that were in need, whether it was COVID tests, diapers, thermometers, sanitizers, everything under the sun that qualifies for PPE, because we have a group right now of about 23 individuals that are part of this program. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Also, if you are in need of 23 individuals that are strong and willing to help out in the community, Fridays are days to do that. So feel free to reach out to myself or the Workforce Development Board for those extra hands, because we're ready to give back to the community and engage with you know, those that are in need or that can use that extra hand.
Thank you. And thank you all for sharing the information. Any questions for Homero or Jocelyn or Michael?
Can you guys hear me? I have.
Yes.
Okay, I'm probably going to be echoey. I'm recording on another computer. Victor Guzman with KIWN. But Homero, how did you find out about the program? Jocelyn too. And how does it feel to, you know, Michael was talking about all these projects y'all were working on with fire mitigation, helping people in Pájaro, helping with PPE stuff. How does it feel to be able to contribute in that, and really to be one of the key pieces to be able to help people out in all these situations?
That's a good question. Well, first off, I heard about this program. My brother-in-law is in this program as well. He's the one that kind of applied for me, you know, because he kind of knew that I kind of didn't really have a job at the time. So, you know, yeah, he applied for me, and like a few days later, they emailed me saying, "Hey, well, you know, come in for an interview." I went in for an interview, and yeah, you know, I told him like all my job experiences and that I'm, you know, I'm a hard worker, I'm dedicated to work, and I'm just willing to do it, and they were willing to take the chance on me, So I appreciate them for that a lot. And yeah, ever since I started, like I do really enjoy my time with the Green Cadre, honestly. But how I feel about the whole situation, like I feel pretty good about being able to help out the community at least, or being able to help out any way I can, just to be able to prevent any more dangers coming our way, or anything, just anything in general, like how everything like we're doing with all the parks and stuff, with all the trees that falling and all that, like Jocelyn explained. It just feels good to be able to help out, and be able to know that. And then at the end of all of this, like we're the ones that did it, to be able to help out everybody, and everybody's gonna be able to see that, and hopefully be appreciated for that.
Jocelyn, tell us your story.
Okay. As for me, I actually found out about this job through a social media ad. I was looking for a job for a really long time and I had trouble finding one. And I saw this ad and I was really interested in working with the environment, and I applied right away. I kind of didn't believe it at first, but I applied to it and I got an email right away and what time to me, and I was super excited to start working with this program. Um, about this job, it feels amazing to be working at a job where you're leaving a good impact on the environment and the community at the same time. To go into work and knowing that you're helping, doing like fuel mitigation, or helping have a what's it called do better in state parks. It's just a great experience, and all the certifications we got as well, which I know are going to help me in future jobs. I just really like everything this Green Cadre program has to offer. Yes.
Michael, now this would be a great time. You've got all these fantastic people who are in your program. When is the next time that someone could apply for the Cadre program?
Right now, we're actually taking applications and going to start setting up interviews for our food insecurity Green Cadre. And that's going to start, it's slated to start October 2nd. And that one will, again, it'll focus on connecting people with resources. Last cohort we did, we had pop-ups and set up tables to help individuals in the community sign up for CalFresh and get those benefits. We were able to do some harvesting and gleaning in South County for fruits and vegetables that were not going to reach the tables of other individuals. So we were able to gather those and give those out to the community. So that's ongoing right now. This current cadre will run until about mid-January, and then there'll be another one almost immediately after that. I'd say at the end of February for this version of the climate Green Cadre. But again, for the food insecurity one, we're taking applications online. You can go to the Workforce Development Board's webpage, and it'll say learn more, and it'll have a quick online application that maximum takes 10 minutes to fill out. It'll be followed up with an email and orientation and interviews. And that's what we have going on right there. One other thing I wanted to say is that these individuals have come together in these trainings. Our first week was 23 strangers coming together to learn about each other and work together as a team. So that team building was huge. And it's not just the state parks that they've had an impact on. They've worked with the food bank here in Salinas. They are now planting and harvesting food there. Our food insecurity group helped plant the crops there at the food bank. And on our Fridays, part of our group is harvesting that food and getting it to the people as part of our Friday give backs. Also, these individuals have been instrumental in the community garden that was restarted. It was taking over there at the Monterey Adult School. It had kind of not been doing much lately. Once these individuals got hold of it, it's now newly landscaped. It's looking beautiful. Homero with the the training that he did was instrumental in removing a tree from that space that's going to be used for planting native vegetation. And part of that garden is being dedicated to 2 local native groups that are from that seaside area. So that's huge and impactful, giving back to the community. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and put in the chat just so everyone has. I'm gonna give my information and the Workforce Development Board's website just in case anyone wants to look on there. And feel free to reach out for those. And these are just the environmental programs. There's so many other programs here. We have a upcoming CNA cohort where individuals are going to be able to go through and get their CNA certifications and things like that. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me anytime. I'm always available.
We do have one hand raised for a question.
Yes.
That's me, sorry.
No.
Is there a max for how many people can apply or to join the program?
Right now at this point, we're kind of limited on space based on transportation. That's our only limitation. But if we have a large amount, we'll make room and make things happen. These cohorts kind of laugh at me because my favorite word to use is pivot. Whatever comes our way, we're going to pivot. So if they tell us 20 people and 50 people are interested, well, we're gonna have to pivot and we're gonna have to figure that out because we don't want to leave anyone behind. So we're gonna do what we have to, whether it's get more vans, because that's part of what we want to do for the environment. We don't want 23 vehicles going to a state park, and we don't want 23 different cars going here and there. So everyone, we meet up and we take one van to commute in and out of work. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at.
We're going to let Michael put this information in chat. Any last questions for Michael or Jocelyn or Romero, who we know we're going to be watching for him in those power tools?
I saw them smile and nod as you said.
I know he's got
too.
a glint in his eye when he talks about those power tools.
Yeah. Do either Jocelyn or Romero speak Spanish that could just answer the question about, how it feels to be able to help all these communities and places in the county?
Yeah. If you want, I can answer it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So just pretty much the same question right now, but in Spanish.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, ¿cómo me siento ayudando a la comunidad? Me siento bien para saber que todo el trabajo que estoy haciendo aquí con todos los entrenamientos que haré con esta compañía, yo sé que ahí en el futuro, que todo el trabajo que estamos haciendo, todos los otros de un grupo juntos en los parques, donde sea. Ahorita estamos allá en un parque que se llama Point Lobos y estamos nomás preparando, ellos andan preparando para hacer como una lumbre controlado para preventar algo si pasa una tormenta o algo de lo que pasa. Pero como yo personalmente me siento bien para poder ayudar a la comunidad todo lo que puedo y como dije, todos los entrenamientos que tengo, sí, ya sé que en el futuro sí voy a estar bien con estos y ojalá que ahí en el futuro otra vez podemos ayudar más de lo que podemos.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for answering that question. Victor, any other questions that you have before we move on to our next topic? Or any other questions from anyone?
No, Michael, I sent you my contact information. And if there's any photos, whatever, that you could share, we'd love to, we're planning on running this anyway, but to be able to have those visual elements would help out if you can. Obviously, some things prevent that, but.
Nope, 100%. I can send you we do have photos. That's part of it. We also take photos of what we're doing and things of that nature. So yeah, most definitely.
Perfect. And thank you all for the good work too. Romero and Jocelyn, y'all are doing good.
Yeah,
you too, Michael.
Thank you.
Well, and on the Workforce Development Facebook page, there are some photos of the work crews in action, although I'm not seeing any power tools on that one. So Amaro, you're going to have to get going and get some better photos
I know.
with your tools. Thank you all very much for being here today and sharing the really great work. And we really look forward to hearing about what you do in the future. So we're going to turn from pre-disaster assistance, which our Green Cadre is doing, to post-disaster assistance. You may have heard that FEMA assistance is available for those with disaster damage to wells and septic systems. Nicki Fowler from our Environmental Health Bureau is joining us to talk more about how flooding impacted those types of systems, who is affected, and how they can get assistance. Thanks, Nicki, for waiting patiently to talk about this topic.
Yeah, you bet. No, this has been interesting stuff. Thanks for letting me join in today. So Nicki Fowler, again, with the Environmental Health Bureau here at Monterey County, and our bureau oversees drinking water supplies as well as wastewater systems, particularly septic systems. And so we were really heartened to see this information come out late last week, that some additional financial assistance may be eligible for those impacted by the winter storms this year. Particularly, it's those individuals who that were impacted by the winter storms that happened between February 21st and July 10th of this year. And so ultimately, I just want to back up a little bit and focus on the septic systems and clarify that a typical septic system consists of a septic tank and a rock-filled drain field. And these passively treat wastewater by allowing the solids to settle out in the tank, and then the clarified wastewater passes through and out to this rock-filled drain field. But extended wet weather conditions and flooding can cause higher than normal flow in the septic system, and that can cause solids to transfer from the septic tank out to the drain field and cause clogging. And that can lead to backups in the house or surfacing wastewater onto the ground in the yard, all bad things. And saturated soils can also lead to excess sediment entering the tank back through the drain field. Again, no good, because that's going to ultimately damage the integrity of the system to operate. So this financial assistance is available for the actual repair or replacement cost of the septic system. That's not typically covered by a homeowner's insurance. And so basically homeowners would need to reach out to FEMA to either request an inspection, or if they already had one, notify them that they want them to come back out or to amend their prior claim to include the septic system. So the last thing I'll add, if I may, Maya, is just that site selection is essential when planning for a new septic system. Ultimately, choosing the drain field location needs to consider the regulated distances from streams and wells, but also plan for that stormwater runoff that's inevitable so that it moves past or around the drain field instead of collecting right on top of it or flooding onto it. So choosing a flat area at the bottom of a slope is generally not going to be the best place for it, since it's going to invite potential flooding during heavy storms.
Thanks very much, Nicki, for walking us through this. Do we know of homes or communities whose septic systems were impacted and maybe now rethinking the fact that they might be able to get some help in this repair?
I've passed this information along to several septic system consultants who have reached out. In particular, there was a community in the southern end of Pajaro that is served by septic. Luckily, the bulk of the Pajaro community is served by the sewer system, but there's some folks just on the southern end of it that have septic systems and were impacted. And they're looking at having to do replacements for 4 or 5 properties down there. So I'm hopeful that this is something that's going to benefit them and hopefully make it easier to get things back to status quo.
Is this also something that people who, when they're experiencing, that disaster, they kind of get back in, they start cleaning up their house, they start looking at their property, they do the insurance thing, and they may not be aware that maybe insurance isn't going to help them repair this. And so they may have applied to FEMA, but not knowing that they could get help with this particular aspect.
I think that's a great point. As far as I know, most homeowner insurance policies don't include the septic system unless you specifically have a policy for the septic system. And so folks may have been unaware that that wasn't going to be covered by their policies. And it would be worth checking in. I attempted to reach out to FEMA to understand the extent of their cost recovery, whether or not it would apply to the maintenance activities needed to, say, pump out those solids and silts that accumulated in the tank, or if it was only for full-blown replacements. But I wasn't able to reach a live body that could help me, unfortunately. But so in that case, I would encourage everyone to reach out and make the claim regardless.
And there are a lot of communities or homes that are, in unincorporated county, there are a lot of septic systems. So and there were a lot of areas that were impacted. So it is possible that people just simply weren't aware that they could get this help. So they really should, your recommendation is they, kind of collect what they may have done, get their costs together, and then reach out to FEMA and see how they could be helped.
Yeah, their guidance indicates that they would contact the FEMA helpline and request an inspection, or if they already had one, to call FEMA to amend the claim that they have. And at that point, I think, yeah, having all the documentation in place for the work that they've done thus far will be critical.
Well, it's great that it's not too late for them, that FEMA is kind of giving them a window to try to at least find out, what is possible. Thanks very much, Nicki, for walking us through this. One of those little thought of points post-disaster, but we want to get people as much information as possible.
You bet.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for joining us on the news briefing for this week. Our next briefing is next week. We'll see you then.